Guys, I'm really upset. I had to do this thing. I hate this thing. It makes me so frustrated. You know what the thing is? I hate baths. Baths are terrible. Who invented baths? Why? Why must I take a bath? Oh. But I do like those. Okay. That's mine. I call dibs. I call dibs. I'm still not happy. This is very tasty though. But I'm not happy. If you think I should have to take a bath, if you're with me and you don't think I should have to take a bath, tell Daddy in the comments. Don't make me take baths. I don't like them. They're terrible. Okay, thanks, humans. I gotta go. And Daddy, he wants to start a show. Okay, here we go. Good morning, Magic Players and card collectors of all kinds. Welcome back to the channel. Saturday. Randomness. You know, gotta do some randomness. And what's more random than getting some mail? You never know what's coming in the mail. Well, I mean, I know what's coming in the mail, but you guys don't know what's coming in the mail. And so it's like a mystery. And mysteries are random. At least that's what I'm going with. I'm actually opening a product that if you've been a subscriber to the channel since the beginning, you've seen me open this before. And if you haven't, you probably won't have seen that video because it was quite a long time ago. But I'm opening it again for a very specific reason, and I'm going to go over that as I open this product. Because it is arguably, in my opinion, the greatest deck put together to be taken apart. If that makes sense. And I'm hoping it will by the end. But that is the claim I'm going with. In my opinion, of all the commander decks, and spoiler, it's a commander deck, of all the commander decks that have ever been put together by Wizards so far, this is the Precon that was designed specifically to be taken apart. So we're going to open it, and I'm going to discuss why I feel that way, and why I wanted to buy this a second time. Because there are a few main reasons, very specific reasons, and then there's a bunch of just kind of bonus reasons to doing so. First off, before we actually get in here, I don't know whether they put in any paperwork or anything, so... oh shoot, my freaking name was on this the whole time. Damn. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to scrub that. Hopefully it wasn't zoomed in enough for you guys to see. Alright, we've opened it up, and out comes the commander deck that is in question. Alright, next time I will make sure I scrub off my name. This commander deck is, as I say, what, in my opinion, the greatest deck ever designed to be taken apart for several different reasons. But what I wanted to say before I get into this is a huge shout out to Got Item Games out in Nova Scotia. I missed playing there. It was it is actually probably, why do I keep saying probably? It is my favorite store that I've ever actually played in, to be perfectly honest. I really like the community that they have out there. I feel like nobody ever wanted to overpower anybody. Everybody was really good about discussing what was going to go on in games before we started playing and things. I don't think I ever had a game that I was disappointed that I went out there and played, regardless whether won, lost, or draw. So, and in addition to that, they just have a lot of really awesome products. They're a video game store. If you're looking for retro games, that's a great place to shop. Hint, hint, Matt Cave. And others like Matt Cave. Also, they of course do their card stuff, so definitely check them out online. I'll try and remember to put a link to their store in my description. Without further ado, let's tear this open. So, first off, bonus, I get an extra deck box that I can use for a 5-color deck in the future. Always nice. This does predate the... Nope, there should be a 2-pack booster. Where is my 2-pack booster? Is it inside the thing? Craziness, they actually folded it up inside the thing. Okay. I forgot that from the last time I opened this. We got our life counter, we've got our Jared deck, we've got our lore about Jared over here. I don't think I read the lore last time on the video, so let's do that just to keep with tradition. In the many years since Jared Carthalian's Planeswalker Spark ignited, he has fought many battles and lost many loved ones. He has seen the destruction of the megalomaniacal Planeswalkers from Ravidel to Tavesh Sazat, Gaedron Dihada to Urza, leave in their wake. Weary and doubtful after the cataclysmic conclusion of the Planeswalker War and the death of his lover, Christina of the Woods, Jared lived the life of an ordinary man, raising their son to love justice as he does. His pre-mending spark rendered him immortal and allowed him to watch his descendants strive in the Terracier. But since the Great Mending, Jared has begun aging normally again. His hair streaked with gray, and he must fight with greater economy of motion than when he was a young man. When Shieldred's Phyrexian forces began infiltrating Dominaria, Jodah, the Archmage Eternal, sought to recruit Jared to the Coalition's cause. Jared was initially suspicious. Jodah's ancestor Urza had recruited Christina in a similar way centuries ago and betrayed her to her death. Jared reasoned, however, that if the Phyrexians were allowed to conquer the world, Christina's death would have been in vain. Thus, Jared has become a Coalition agent, his physical prowess and mastery of magic enabling him to infiltrate enemy fortresses and, when necessary, fight his way out. I'm not going to lie, this is probably one of the best Planeswalker, one of my favorite Planeswalkers. I'm not going to say the best, that's probably a bad thing to say. But it's one of my favorites. Ironically, though, that lore is going to make what I plan to do with this specific card really funny. I eventually, when I have enough of them, and I don't have enough of them right now because I've used most of the ones I have in other decks, but I've started to collect some. I'm collecting Planeswalkers, and eventually I want to build a Super Friends deck like most people have, but I'm going to do a 5-colored Super Friends deck with him as the leader. I think that'll be a lot of fun. I'm going to attempt to not put in any creatures other than mana dorks, so that way any fighting that I need to do will have to be done by whatever creatures the Planeswalkers themselves can produce, like the, what are these called? Caboose? Yes, Caboose, that Jared produces. So, yeah, pretty stoked. We're going to open this at the end, so we'll leave it up here so we don't forget. That camera angle kind of sucks today. I don't know why. Maybe I'm too far out. Let's try and fix that a little bit. See if that helps. There. Yeah, that kind of helped. Okay. So we're going to open this. I'm going to discuss the reasons, like I say, why I wanted to buy it a second time, and why I plan to do the exact same thing I did the last time and just take this one apart. First off, most commander decks, I feel this strategy is very, very cohesive in them. Most commander decks at their core that they've made Precon-wise are designed with at least a strategy in mind of some sort. Whether that strategy is actually a good strategy or not, that's completely debatable. And you're more than welcome to debate that because you probably would have a very valid argument against it being one. But I wanted to pick up this Precon because it particularly does not follow that pattern, in my opinion. Jared really wants a lot of multicolored stuff to be in play, and this deck is full of multicolored things, don't get me wrong. There is a lot of multicolored stuff in here. But what this is, essentially, when it boils down, when you get through it and boil it down to its core, is a collection of a massive amount of legendary creatures. And those legendary creatures really don't have a lot of cohesiveness with each other. For example, in here there is a creature, and we'll get to it eventually, that likes X-Spells. And there is only one X-Spell in this entire deck. So it really doesn't belong in this deck, and it doesn't get any benefits from this deck. But nevertheless, it's in here. And a lot of the creatures that are in here are kind of like that. They have awesome powers of their own, but they just don't necessarily go together in a way that was designed that way. Some of them, they can benefit each other just because of what their powers do. One will actually prevent all creature spells from being countered. Another creates eggs. So there's lots of good stuff in here, but they're not, like I say, it's not like a normal Precon. Like the last Precon that we opened up on this channel, which I believe is still over here somewhere. Just a second. Ironically, I haven't taken it apart for what I originally planned to do yet, because I'm thinking I might not have to. And if I don't have to, I would really like to keep this one together, because it's pretty damn powerful out of the box. And that's the starter deck that we opened the other day. That starter deck has a really strong, cohesive strategy. It's full of a lot of really good dragons. I've actually put them all together now, and I believe at my count there was like 19 or 20 dragons in here. Like, it's a really stacked deck and well designed to do what it wants to do. So that's what Precons are kind of supposed to be like. But this one just really isn't that way. But this Precon offers so much good stuff that arguably it's one of the best ones you can pick up if you can pick it up for cheap. And I'm not sure what it's actually worth market-wise per se, but I got a pretty good deal on it, I think, from Got Item Games, even with the shipping, so I'm pretty happy. But anyways, you're not here to hear me just rant. You're here to go through the cards with me, so let's do that. Jared Carthalion is a 5-color planeswalker. He creates Kavus. He can pick 2 target creatures, and each of them get a +1/+1 counter equal to the number of colors they have. And when target multicolored card from you can return target multicolored card from your graveyard to your hand, and if it's all colors, you get to draw a card and create 2 treasures. So I mean, he's pretty versatile. He's not like OP by any means per se. Honestly, his best ability is probably the Kavu thing, just because he can keep producing 2 creatures per turn for free that are 3/3s and has every color, which is pretty nice. And they have trample. I'm assuming Jensen Carthalion is supposed to be his son. It didn't really specify that in the lore we just read, but I'm assuming so. And he's pretty cool too. Whenever you cast a multicolored spell, scry 1, and if it's all colors, like Jared for example, then you get to create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance, which is pretty powerful. On top of that, you can pay 5 and tap him, and he gives you Wooburg. This is actually the commander of one of my other favorite decks that I've built. I don't want to spoil that deck just yet for you guys, because I believe I've shown it before on the channel, so if you go back through the archives, you'll figure out which one I mean. But if not, you'll see it in an upcoming video in, let's say, the next month or so. Here we get started on what I argue is one of the best parts of this deck, and that is the mana base. The mana base of this deck is insane. And one of the specific reasons why I bought this is I plan to take this mana base directly out of this deck and put it directly into the 5-color dragon deck I want to build. The Spirits deck I'm building has a decent mana base already based on just me pulling manas from my land collection. I'm not overly worried. I have a lot of land. So I can definitely keep building commander decks for quite some time without fret about that. The only thing that I always worry about is how much this cost of sleeves and deck boxes ends up being. But anyways, so we've got Bad River here, which enters the battlefield tapped. You can sacrifice it, search your library for an island or a swamp, put it onto the battlefield. And it doesn't say it has to be a basic, which is pretty awesome. I believe there's one of each of those in this deck for like the 2-pair colorings, but I can't remember for sure. There's also a bunch of the charms. Abzan Charm, exile target creature with power of 3 or greater. You can draw 2 cards and lose 2 life, or you can put 2+1/+1 counters on among 1 or 2 target creatures. Arcane Sanctum, another great land, taps for all 3 colors. Beast Within, great green card. You can't go wrong with Beast Within. Crumbling Necropolis, another great land. Explosive Vegetation, you get to search your library for 2 basic land cards and put them onto the battlefield tapped and shuffle. Selwar Stone, pretty solid artifact. As long as, I mean, in a 5-color deck, it's going to be great no matter what other people are playing, but if you want to put it in a lesser mana value deck, then you're looking at, hopefully, just somebody else will play your colors. Another one of the fetch ones. I really like these ones because they're a lot less expensive than the regular fetch lands, and they still do the same job, it just takes an extra turn. Frontier Bivouac. Fusion Elemental is one of those 5-color ones that's going to trigger Jensen and a few other cards in this deck that like 5-color things, but other than the fact that he's 5 colors and he's a 5 mana for 8/8, not really anything special. Grasslands, another Searcher. Jungle Shrine, another Tri-land. Croson Verge. Here's where we get into some of the lands that I'm not so keen on, but I mean, they're still great. Enters battlefield tapped. They can give you colorless, or you can pay 2 and sacrifice to search your library for force and plains. Put them on the battlefield tapped. That is pretty solid because it gets you both. And I mean, there is a decent amount of basics in this land base. So I mean, they're actually... Forgive me, I shouldn't have knocked that. That's actually a lot better than I thought it was. I misremembered what I was looking at. Migration Path. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Put them on the battlefield tapped. Mountain Valley. Mystic Monastery. Naya Charm. Deals 3 damage to target creature. Return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. Or target creature from a graveyard to its owner's hand, but typically you're going to pick your own probably. And tap all creatures target player controls. Nomad Outpost. Opulent Palace. Path to Exile, the classic one you want to put into your decks. Passive World Tree, this is a great card for getting a basic land, and then you get a whole ton of crap when you sacrifice it, but you have to pay 7 mana to do it. You get to gain 2 life, draw 2 cards, then you can make somebody lose 2 life, then it deals 2 damage to up to 1 target creature, and then you get to create a 2/2 green bear. So you get 5 benefits from it, but 7 to sacrifice it's a lot. Another Searchland, Sand Steep Citadel, another try, Savage Lands, another try, Seaside Citadel, another try, Saltide Charm, destroy target monocolored, destroy target artifact or enchantment, draw 2 cards and discard a card. Sylvan Reclamation, exile up to 2 target artifacts and or enchantments. So like I say, there's a lot of really good mana base in here, and there's synergy in certain effects, like this is all colors, so it's going to trigger your commander. Here's where we're starting to get into some of the other reasons why I bought this deck. This deck has at least 2, if not 3, maybe even 4 really cool dragons that I want to put into my dragons deck. And this is definitely one of them. Flying Menace Haste, whenever it attacks, you get to draw 2 cards. And a 6 cost for a 5/5. Really solid card. I forgot Tiller Engine was in this deck. Whenever a land enters the battlefield tapped under your control, you get to either untap it or tap a non-land permanent an opponent controls, which is great for this mana base in particular because it does a lot of has a lot of tapped lands. Unite the Coalition, choose 5. You can choose the same mode more than once. I don't know if you can choose the same mode more than twice. Like, I'm not sure if you can choose the same mode, like, 5 different times. Like, you do target permanent phases out 5 different permanents, for example. But let me know in the comments. Maybe I'm wrong. Falaja, wait. Okay, I'm not going to get that right at all. Falaji? Wayfarer? It's all colors, but it doesn't change its color identity. So, I'm not sure how that affects the Jensen, per se. I suppose it still counts as a multicolored spell, it's just not part of its identity. And then multicolored spells have Convoke, which is pretty solid in this deck. It's another one, again, like, there's a lot of decent synergy in this deck when it comes to, like, the spells, like instant sorceries, things like that. When we get to the creatures, though, you'll see what I mean about how it's just not a deck that was designed well. Destroy each creature that isn't all colors. That, for example, is a terrible spell in this deck. That, like, we've seen a few things that have multicolored so far, but, I mean, overall, there isn't a lot that would count so far. Mannequins is a good one in this deck, though, because everything is at least 2 colors, for the most part. Primeval Spawn is a solid one. Older card, if I remember correctly. I think I have a bunch of these from, like, way back when I used to play in university. I think it was like Closer, if you could actually pull it off. Back in like Modern. Obsidian Obelisk enters the battlefield tapped, add colorless, add 1 mana of any color, but you can only cast a multicolored spell with it. Not bad, though. Here we start to get into this. So, this guy's great for this deck. He's one of the few that is actually awesome. As long as he's tapped, all the other permanents enter the battlefield tapped. As long as he's untapped, all other permanents enter untapped. So he's insanely good for the land base that's in here because all the lands come in tapped, so therefore, if you want him to be, if you have him untapped, all those lands enter untapped regardless, kind of thing, which is pretty nice. Baleful Strix, it is 2-colored, but I mean, aside from that, you just have a Flying Death Touch that gives you 1 card. It's not specifically synergistic. Canopy Vista, again, the land base in this deck is just insane. Cascading Cataracts, indestructible, adds colorless, or you can pay 5 to get any mana combination of 5 colors, which is pretty sweet. Cinderglade, Coalition Relic, again, just another great one for getting mana of any color. I still haven't quite figured out how you're going to get multiple charge counters on it unless you can figure out a way to untap it and tap it multiple times in a turn, but anyways, Crystal Quarry, another great land. Doomblast, choose up to 1 target creature and destroy the rest. That's actually a pretty solid spell in the right deck for sure. Exotic Orchard. Actually, that's 1 card, again, that's actually really good in this deck. Land base is just insane in this deck. This guy's pretty good in this deck because he's getting you 5 colors, essentially, if you have permanents in all the colors on the battlefield. Hero Precinct 1, whenever you cast a multicolored spell, you get to create a soldier, not a soldier. Knight of New Alara, each multicolored creature you control gets +1/+1 for each of its colors. I mean, like I say, there's decent support to the deck, don't get me wrong, but a lot of the legendaries just don't synergize. That's what I mean when I say that, like, this deck is meant to be taken apart, in my opinion. It deals X damage to target player or planeswalker, and each creature that player or planeswalker's controller controls. That's the only X spell, I believe, in this deck, if I remember correctly. Merciless Eviction, you get to choose 1. Artifacts, creatures, enchantments, or planeswalkers, exile all of those. Murmuring Book, ooh, I don't remember this one being in the deck. I'm not sure what I did with Murmuring Bosk, the original version that I have. As it enters the battlefield, you may reveal a Tree Folk card from your hand. If you don't, this thing enters the battlefield tapped. Ah, it's because it adds either forest or adds white or black and deals 1 damage to you when it does, which I don't think I would have used it probably in most decks that I have. Painful Truth, you draw X cards and you lose X life, where X is the number of colors spent on this spell. Prairie Stream. Radiant Flames, deals X damage to each creature, where X is the number of colors of mana spent to cast a spell. Now, I don't know if these count as X spells. I don't think they do, because I believe they have to have an X up here. If I'm right about that, then like I say, this is the only X spell in the deck. But if I'm wrong, then there are a few other X spells. Sylvala Explorer Returned is just a great legendary on her own. Parlay, everybody reveals the top card of the library. You get non-land. Every non-land card gives you a forest and a life. And everybody gets to draw a card. Just a great legendary all around. Swamp Mountain, Solemn Simulacrum. I forgot that this deck came with... What did I do with the original Solemn Simulacrum in my head? I must have gave it to Anthony, maybe. Maybe I gave it to him for one of his decks. Sunken Hollow, that could possibly be, because I really don't remember what I did with it. Time Wipe, return a creature you control to its owner's hand and destroy all creatures. Alright, so here we start to see... Oh, nope, that's not a legendary, actually. But this is one of the creatures that's just kind of weird. When it deals combat damage to a player, you draw that many cards. It's a 2/2. You can pay 1, discard a card, and this thing gets +1/+1 on the turn. Like, it's a neat card, but it doesn't really have any decent synergy with this deck other than the fact that it's 4 colors. So it's going to get boosted to a 6/6 if it's with the right card, but otherwise... Atla Palani, Nest Tender, she's just a great legendary on her own. Pay 2, tap it, create an egg, and whenever an egg dies, you get to reveal a creature card from the top of your library and put it onto the battlefield. The rest of your cards that get revealed this way go to the bottom in a random order. Like, to be honest, I'm considering making that a commander deck I build myself later on, or I might put that into the dragon deck. That is another one I was considering getting this deck specifically for, because dragons are just so damn expensive, and that's just a great way to cheat them out. Maelstrom Nexus, the first spell you cast each turn has Cascade. That's actually pretty solid in this deck. Gets around some of the expensive crap. Chromanticore, that's a great legendary that is... Or no, it's not a legendary, it's just an enchantment. Pardon me. An enchantment creature with Bestow for 7, flying for Strike, Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink, and if you give it to the Bestow to an enchant creature, that creature gets all those things +4/+4. This is one of the ones that's definitely going into my dragon deck. Okagati, the Vengeful Kami. Flying Trample, whenever this thing deals combat damage to a player, if that player attacked you during their last turn, you get to exile a non-land permanent they control. Just basically deters everybody from trying to swing at you. That is not actually going to be the Dragon Commander for my deck, though, just so we know. I still am not saying which one it is, but that here's the one that likes X spells. So whenever you cast a spell with X in its mana cost, exactly, that's what I thought, you get to create a 0/0 green Hydra creature token and then put X +1/+1 counters on it. So you literally get to do that once in this entire game. Otherwise, you get a 2/3 with Death Touch, and it taps for 2 mana of any one color. Like, it's really not useful in this deck. It's an amazing legendary, but it's not useful in this deck at all. We've got a couple mutate cards in here, I believe. I think there's 2 of them. Yeah. And they're both great mutate cards, don't get me wrong, but unless you're playing a mutate deck, are they really that good? You can mutate them onto something once, but after that, you're not going to get to use the mutate trigger again, is my point. Unless I'm missing something about how mutate works. But I don't think you can mutate onto something that's already like a mutate creature a second time. Unless you can like somehow phase it in and phase it out. Maybe, or something like that. Anyways. Maelstrom Archangel is a great card, though. It deals combat damage to a player. You get to cast a spell from your hand without paying its mana cost. That is insane. That is definitely worth putting into a 5-color deck, for sure. I'm not sure which one I want to put in yet, but... Rian, Angel of Rebirth, is another insane legendary. Other multicolored creatures have +1/+0, which is great. And whenever a multicolored creature dies, you get to return it to your hand. Again, That's actually really useful in this deck, but I mean, it's one of the few that makes sense for the deck, per se, in terms of the legendaries that they've included. Okagachi really doesn't make a whole lot of sense for this deck. It's a 6 cost that's going to be destroyed probably the instant somebody realizes how powerful it is, because it's basically like a ghostly prison almost on the field. It's deterring people from attacking you. And in this deck, because of the way it's all so janky, people are going to want to attack you. Surak Dragonclaw, this is another amazing legendary. I might be putting this into my dragon deck. I haven't decided yet for sure. It has flash, it can't be countered, and creature spells can't be countered. And all my other creatures get trample. So I mean, it's a great way to give my entire dragon board trample if I want to put it in that deck. I might build another deck just around this card because I don't have a lot of green, blue, red decks out there. I have a couple, but not a lot. This is a legendary I actually do want to build a deck around. I had a copy of this card before, and somebody else wanted to build a deck at the time, and I just wasn't sure how to build a deck around this card at that time. I now understand how this deck is supposed to work, and I now know how I want to build a deck with this card. So I'm excited to get another copy of it. But again, flying, whenever an opponent draws a card except the first one they draw each turn, you get to create a snake. And whenever this thing deals combat damage to a player, you and that player each draw that many cards. So you're going to get to draw a bunch of cards when this thing attacks and deals damage, but beyond that, there's not a lot of things in this deck that cause your opponents to, or that cause, your opponents to draw cards. There's just really not. So you're kind of counting on them to show up with a deck that does that. Abundant Growth is a great help to get lands going. Arcane Signet, another great mana filter. I really don't like this thing. As much as I understand what it's good for, it's just not my favorite creature. Coiling Oracle, when it enters the battlefield, you reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land, you put it onto the battlefield, otherwise it goes into your hand. I mean, it's a great way to get just an extra card either into your hand or a free land onto the field, don't get me wrong, but I've just never been a super huge fan of it. And most times when I see it in a Precon, I pull it out, to be perfectly honest. Command Tower, Cultivate, Echoing Truth, return target non-land permanent and all other permanents with the same name as that permanent to their owner's hand. That's a great way to get rid of tokens, but otherwise it's not super useful in Commander. Evolving Wilds, Explore, Farseek, Commander Sphere. Growth Spiral is pretty solid. Draw a card, put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. Kodama's Reach. Terminate, destroy target creature, can't be regenerated. Prophetic Prism is another great mana producer. Search for Tomorrow, get a basic land, put it onto the battlefield tapped and shuffle. You can suspend this card, Terramorphic Expanse. And then I believe is there only 2 of each other base? Yeah, except for the 4th, there's 2 of each basic. You got your thick commander when they used to do that, and then they got the Kabus, which there's 4 of. Nice. There's also angels on the Kabus, plus beasts, a bear. You got some snakes and some humans. Some humans and some snakes and some eggs and some snakes and a Hydra. I wish there was some more egg tokens, to be honest. That's the one thing that I feel they should have included more tokens of eggs and less tokens of... I don't know if I would reduce the snakes. Maybe I would have reduced the snakes. It looks like there's freaking 5 snakes, actually. Yeah, because there's snakes on the back of the eggs. I would have reduced one of the snakes. Definitely would have reduced 1, if not 2 of the snakes, and put in a couple more eggs. I think the eggs are actually really... the thing I like most in this deck, or not the thing I like most, the token I've produced the most from cards in this deck so far. Anyway. Let's finish this off. Let me know in the comments down below if you think I've made an argument successfully for what I've said about this deck being the deck that was designed to the greatest extent to produce the most value for the player who buys it, but not as a deck itself, but as a collection of parts for future Commander builds. I believe that I've made that argument fairly well. You got a lot of cards in here that help you produce mana, that help you fetch mana, which are all great. Let's see what we get in our collector booster, though. Alright, here we go. We got 1, 2, 3. Ooh, that's a new one for me. Sten, Paranoid Partisan. As it enters the battlefield, choose a card type other than creature or land. Spells you cast of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast. Exile it and return to the battlefield under its owner's control as a big... Oh, nice! So you get to change what you've picked if you want to. That's actually pretty cool and very versatile. The only thing I don't like about it is the fact that it's blue-white. If it was just a monocolor, that could go in so many decks. The fact that it's blue-white, that limits you to a lot of... I mean, there's still a lot of versatility to it, don't get me wrong, but for example, I'm not going to be able to put that in the blue-black deck, where I would love to put it, for example. And our other card, ooh, Arona Sheoldred's Faithful, just a classic that we've pulled before. Oh, both are hollow, though, that's pretty neat. I thought usually you only got one hollow. Anyways, that is it for this video, and I hope you guys have enjoyed. Poor little Kaiba's chilling beside me, still not very happy about getting his bath, but we all have to do things that we don't like sometimes. In the meantime, I hope you guys have a great week upcoming, and don't forget to check out Super Deck Sunday. I'm not sure what deck I'm putting out for the week that I put this video out for you guys. I'm opening this product actually a few weeks earlier than when I'm posting this video because I need the parts for my Dragon deck, as I said earlier. But, yeah. Much love to you all from me. You take care, and bye.